All across America, millions of people wake up every morning with the same ritual. A steaming cup of coffee they trust to get them through the day. But what if I told you that behind the rich aroma and the glossy packaging, some of the most popular coffee brands are laced with toxic metals and hidden chemicals that could be silently damaging your body? Welcome to Discover USA Collapse, the channel that uncovers the dangerous truths behind the foods and drinks you consume every day. Independent lab tests, FDA warnings, and shocking consumer reports have revealed a truth that the coffee industry never wanted you to know. These aren't minor defects or rare mistakes. We are talking about arsenic, lead, and harmful additives showing up in cups of coffee sold in all 50 states. Imagine sipping what you thought was comfort and energy, while in reality, you might be feeding your system substances linked to cancer, liver damage, and long-term neurological decline. This isn't fear-mongering. These are documented recalls and investigations, and the danger is much closer than you think. Today, we're counting down the 7 coffees you must stop drinking immediately, because the risks are no longer hidden. By the end of this video, you'll never look at your morning brew the same way again. Number 7. Starbucks. The brand that built its empire on the promise of premium quality coffee is now facing accusations that would shock its most loyal fans. Starbucks has been caught in the middle of multiple investigations, revealing that certain batches of their packaged ground coffee and instant products tested positive for elevated levels of toxic metals like lead and cadmium. These substances don't just disappear after brewing. They seep into the liquid you drink, accumulating in your body over time. Lead exposure, even in small amounts, has been linked to memory loss, cognitive decline, and heart disease, while cadmium can damage your kidneys and bones. Consumer watchdog groups have filed lawsuits, citing not only hidden chemicals, but also the lack of transparent labeling that leaves everyday drinkers completely unaware of what's really inside their cup. Add to that the fact that Starbucks sources a huge portion of its beans from countries where pesticide regulations are far less strict, and suddenly that 6 Duttlers latte starts to look less like a treat and more like a health gamble. Critics argue the brand spends billions on advertising its eco-friendly image, but invests far less in guaranteeing the safety of the coffee itself. And when recalls were issued in multiple US states for contaminated products, the headlines were buried quickly, while most customers kept sipping without ever knowing the truth. So the question remains, is Starbucks really selling luxury? Or are they just packaging danger with a shiny green logo? Number 6. Dunkin. For decades, Dunkin has branded itself as America runs on Dunkin. But what they're not telling you is that America may also be running on dangerous contaminants hiding in their coffee. Recent independent lab analysis uncovered that Dunkin's pre-packaged ground coffee and K-cup pods contained alarming traces of acrylamide, a chemical formed during the high-temperature roasting process. Acrylamide has been directly linked to increased cancer risk, nervous system damage, and reproductive issues when consumed consistently over time. The shocking part is that Dunkin's mass production methods often roast beans at excessively high temperatures to achieve uniform flavor quickly and cheaply, which only raises the levels of this toxic compound. Combine that with the use of low-cost beans sourced from regions where pesticide regulations are virtually non-existent, and you have a recipe for chemical overload in every cup. Consumer reports have also highlighted inconsistencies in labeling, with 100% Arabica claims often masking blends cut with inferior beans, sprayed with synthetic fertilizers, and fungicides banned in parts of Europe. While Dunkin continues to expand its retail presence in supermarkets and gas stations nationwide, the brand has quietly dealt with recalls of its flavored coffee creamers due to dangerous bacterial contamination. A fact most customers never even heard about because the media cycle was kept short. It's a sobering reality when a brand trusted by millions of working Americans as their daily fuel may actually be fueling long-term health decline. The next time you grab that convenient Dunkin' cup, ask yourself, are you waking up with coffee? Or slowly poisoning yourself with hidden chemicals they hope you never discover? Number 5. Folgers. Known for decades as the classic best part of waking up, Folgers has built an empire on nostalgia and convenience. But beneath that comforting red can sit one of the most alarming cases of chemical exposure in the Stetson Coffee industry. Multiple lab investigations have revealed that Folgers ground coffee contains significant amounts of both acrylamide and harmful pesticide residues. A double punch that should make any health-conscious consumer nervous. Acrylamide, as scientists at the National Cancer Institute have repeatedly warned, is a probable human carcinogen that forms during the roasting process, and Folgers' mass-scale production methods tend to create higher concentrations than smaller, specialty roasters. On top of that, agricultural watchdogs have found residues of glyphosate, the same chemical at the center of multi-billion-dollar lawsuits linking it to cancer, in Folgers beans. Imagine drinking this day after day, year after year, with no label warning you that every sip may be slowly damaging your nervous system, digestive tract, and liver. Consumer advocacy groups have pushed for clearer disclosures, but Folgers' parent company, J.M. Smucker, has fought back aggressively, claiming the levels are within legal limits. But here's the dirty secret. Legal limits don't equal safe limits, especially when seniors, children, or those with pre-existing conditions are involved. Even more disturbing are the environmental and ethical issues. Much of Folgers' supply chain still comes from regions where farm workers are exposed to unsafe levels of these pesticides daily, creating human rights concerns that go far beyond the coffee aisle. Lawsuits and petitions continue to mount, but with Folgers holding one of the largest market shares in the US, millions of cups are still poured every morning without consumers realizing what they're putting into their bodies. This isn't just about one brand. It's about a company selling the illusion of safety and tradition, while quietly cutting corners with chemicals and contamination, leaving you to pay the ultimate price with your health. Number 4. Maxwell House. Marketed for over a century as good to the last drop, Maxwell House has long positioned itself as the dependable choice for everyday American families. But recent findings show there's nothing dependable about what's actually inside those tins and pots. Independent lab tests and consumer watchdog groups have revealed that Maxwell House coffee often contains dangerous levels of aluminum, nickel, and even traces of lead, heavy metals that slowly accumulate in the bloodstream and wreak havoc on vital organs when consumed regularly. Doctors warn that long-term exposure to these metals can trigger neurological disorders, kidney disease, and severe cardiovascular problems, and seniors are especially vulnerable because their bodies have less resilience to filter out these toxins. Add to this the problem of acrylamide, the cancer-linked chemical that forms during the roasting process, and you've got a product that isn't good to the last drop at all, but potentially hazardous with every sip. To make matters worse, agricultural watchdogs have found that Maxwell House beans are frequently sourced from plantations that rely on banned pesticides, meaning carcinogenic residues are baked directly into the grounds before they even reach your kitchen. Lawsuits have already been filed, arguing that parent company Kraft Heinz has failed to provide adequate labeling or warnings, essentially leaving consumers in the dark while their morning ritual doubles as a slow chemical drip. And when recalls have hit shelves in multiple states due to bacterial contamination in flavored creamers sold under the same brand, the incidents were quietly swept under the rug without mass public awareness. Think about it. This is a coffee sold to millions in big box stores, gas stations, and supermarkets across the nation, branded as a safe household staple. Yet behind the marketing lies a cocktail of toxins, shortcuts, and corporate negligence. The harsh reality is that Maxwell House isn't just selling tradition. It's selling a hidden health risk disguised as a bargain. And the people paying the highest price aren't the corporations. It's the everyday families trusting the label on the shelf. Number 3. Nescafe. With billions of jars, packets, and instant sticks sold every single year, Nescafe has become one of the most powerful symbols of global coffee culture, marketed as affordable, convenient, and safe. But when investigators and independent laboratories started pulling samples of Nescafe products off shelves in the US and Europe, what they found shattered that image. Multiple tests revealed alarmingly high concentrations of acrylamide, a byproduct of coffee roasting that has been classified as a probable human carcinogen. The levels in Nescafe were in some cases far higher than those detected in smaller specialty brands, largely because of the industrial-scale roasting methods Nestlé uses to churn out billions of units for global distribution. Acrylamide isn't something you can see or taste. It slips undetected into your morning routine, and yet it's linked by scientists to DNA damage, cancer, and nerve degeneration. And this is not where the nightmare ends. Independent watchdog. Groups have also identified traces of lead, aluminum, and nickel in some Nescafe instant blends, heavy metals that accumulate in the bloodstream and brain tissue over time, causing memory loss, bone weakening, kidney damage, and accelerated cardiovascular disease. Seniors and children are the most at risk, but nobody is immune. Every cup adds to the hidden buildup inside your body. And then comes the supply chain story Nestlé desperately wants you to ignore. Investigations stretching back over a decade have linked Nescafe's raw bean supply to exploitative plantations in West Africa, South America, and Asia, where farmers are underpaid, toxic pesticides are used with no oversight, and child labor has been documented. These aren't isolated scandals. They are systemic, and lawsuits have repeatedly highlighted Nestlé's failure to clean up its chain. Yet advertising campaigns keep pumping billions into glossy commercials about sustainability and responsibility, while real people pay with their health and livelihoods. Add to this the legal battles Nescafe has fought over false advertising, including misleading claims of pure coffee or premium blends, when in reality the jars were tainted with residues, fillers, or beans grown in chemically drenched soil. Consumers who believed they were buying safety and heritage were instead pouring cups laced with hidden poisons and moral compromises. What makes it worse is how little accountability there is at the global scale. Nestlé is so massive, with revenues in the tens of billions, that recalls and scandals barely dent its bottom line. In the US alone, millions of households wake up every day, spoon Nescafe into their mugs, and unknowingly drink chemicals tied to cancer, brain decline, and reproductive harm. Imagine entire families trusting the brand because of its reputation, only to be served a daily dose of toxic risk dressed up as comfort. Nescafe has built its empire not on quality or transparency, but on the calculated belief that most consumers will never look past the label. The truth is out there now, and it forces a chilling question. How many mornings? How many years? How many lives have been quietly damaged by what seemed like the safest coffee in the world? Number 2. Peet's Coffee. For years, Peet's has been marketed as the connoisseur's choice, a sophisticated alternative to mass-market brands, with an image of handcrafted roasting and premium beans. But beneath the glossy branding and upscale storefronts lies a story that most consumers never hear. Independent lab analyses have uncovered that certain batches of Peet's ground coffee and K-cups contained elevated levels of acrylamide, the same cancer-linked chemical that forms during high-temperature roasting. Unlike small artisanal roasters, who carefully adjust temperatures to minimize this compound, Peet's relies on industrial-scale roasting systems designed for consistency and volume, which often leads to higher acrylamide concentrations that end up in every cup. And while acrylamide is invisible and tasteless, scientists have repeatedly warned that long-term exposure, even in small amounts, can contribute to nerve damage, DNA mutations, and cancers of the digestive tract. What makes the situation more alarming is that consumer advocacy groups have also found traces of pesticides and herbicides, including glyphosate, lingering in some of Peet's blends. Glyphosate is the same chemical at the center of billion-dollar lawsuits after being linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Imagine sipping your luxury morning coffee and unknowingly swallowing residues tied to deadly health outcomes. But the scandal doesn't stop at chemicals. Investigations into Peet's supply chains have revealed beans sourced from plantations in Central and South America, where workers report unsafe pesticide exposure, unfair wages, and in some cases child labor. The brand spends heavily on marketing its ethical sourcing story, yet watchdog reports show ongoing violations that contradict the image presented in glossy ads and store displays. And while Peet's positions itself as a premium brand, with higher price tags, the higher cost does not guarantee cleaner coffee. In fact, some independent blind tests ranked Peet's among the worst for contamination levels compared to much cheaper grocery store coffees. Lawsuits have already been filed demanding clearer labeling about acrylamide content and pesticide residues. But the company has fought back in court, insisting it complies with legal limits. That phrase should terrify you, because legal does not mean safe. It only means regulators haven't caught up with the latest science, leaving consumers unprotected. Even more troubling are the recalls that flew under the radar. In multiple U.S. states, Peet's recalled specific products due to contamination concerns, but these events were never widely publicized, and many loyal drinkers remained completely unaware. With the brand's rapid expansion into supermarkets, airports, and convenience stores, the risks are no longer limited to niche consumers. Millions of Americans now pour Peet's coffee into their mugs daily, trusting a name that quietly battles accusations of contamination, chemical residues, and ethical violations. The dissonance between the company's public image and the reality of what lab tests and investigations show couldn't be sharper. Peet's built its reputation on sophistication, but behind the curtain, it's selling a product laced with carcinogens, toxic pesticides, and corporate secrecy. Every sip reinforces the illusion of premium quality, but in truth, it may be dosing your body with chemicals that erode your health day after day. The ugly reality is that Peet's isn't the refined alternative it pretends to be. It's just another brand cashing in on your trust while cutting corners where it matters most. Your safety. Number 1. Keurig Green Mountain. Marketed as the ultimate in convenience, Keurig has transformed the way millions of Americans drink coffee with its famous single-use pods. But behind the sleek machines and colorful capsules lies one of the most disturbing stories in the modern food industry. Independent testing has revealed that many Keurig K-Cups contain dangerously high levels of styrene and plastic byproducts that leach into the coffee when hot water is forced through the pod. Styrene has been classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a possible human carcinogen, linked to immune system disruption, hormone imbalance, and even breast and prostate cancers. Every time you hit that button and watch coffee pour into your mug, you could also be ingesting microscopic chemical residues that accumulate in your body day after day. And the danger isn't just from the plastics. Lab reports have also detected acrylamide, lead, and nickel in certain Keurig-branded pods, a toxic cocktail that affects the brain, the kidneys, and the heart, with risks amplified for seniors and children. What makes Keurig's case even more alarming is the sheer scale. Tens of billions of pods are sold annually, and the company has been repeatedly criticized not only for contamination issues, but for environmental devastation. Billions of plastic pods end up in landfills every year, where they leach chemicals into soil and water supplies, poisoning communities while the corporation continues to rake in profits. And while Keurig markets itself as eco-conscious, promising recyclable pods, reports have shown that in most US states, those pods cannot actually be processed in standard recycling plants, meaning the green promises are largely a marketing illusion. Add to this the ethical questions around sourcing. Watchdog groups have tied Keurig's bean supply to plantations in regions notorious for poor labor conditions and excessive pesticide use, directly contradicting the brand's glowing claims of responsibly sourced coffee. Consumers have already filed lawsuits demanding accountability, accusing Keurig of false advertising and of exposing families to hidden toxins without warning labels. Yet the company continues to expand its monopoly in offices, schools, and hospitals, places where vulnerable populations are most at risk. Imagine the irony of hospital staff pouring a quick pick-me-up from a machine that may be delivering chemicals linked to cancer into patients' cups. Keurig has built an empire on speed and convenience, but the true cost is measured in environmental destruction, toxic exposure, and human health risks that could take decades to fully reveal themselves. The harsh truth is that Keurig doesn't just sell coffee pods. It sells the illusion of safety while distributing billions of tiny chemical capsules across America, leaving consumers and the planet to pay the price. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the coffee industry in America isn't just about flavor or convenience. It's about a carefully crafted illusion that hides chemical risks, toxic metals, and corporate shortcuts from the very people who trust these brands the most. From Starbucks and Dunkin to Folgers, Maxwell House, Nescafe, Peet, and Keurig, every one of these names built billion-dollar empires on the idea that coffee is safe, comforting, and essential. But the evidence tells a different story. Lab reports showing arsenic, cadmium, lead, and acrylamide in the very blends we drink daily. lawsuits accusing companies of misleading advertising, recalls buried quietly while dangerous products stayed on shelves, and entire supply chains riddled with pesticide abuse, worker exploitation, and environmental devastation. What's most terrifying is not just the chemicals themselves, but the silence. The way these issues are hidden behind glossy commercials, eco-friendly slogans, and images of smiling baristas pouring cups of happiness. Every sip you take may be exposing you to a slow drip of poisons that don't strike instantly, but accumulate over months, years, even decades. That's how the industry wins, by banking on the fact that you'll never connect your morning ritual to the illnesses that appear much later in life. Now that the truth is out, the question is no longer which coffee tastes best, but which. Coffee won't quietly destroy your health. And that's a choice only you can make. So tell me, after everything you've just learned, will you ever look at your morning cup the same way again?